Hey folks, it's Tom, your frugal prepper. So let me tell you about the Chevy Tahoe from hell. So this thing showed up at a garage. The crank no start. It would not. You just will crank no start. You spray some ether in it, it would fire over. So they diagnosed it as a bad fuel pump. It had no fuel pressure, and it had a good contact all the way back to ground through the positive side. So you basically take your test light, hook it to positive, put it down that fuel pump wire that feeds the fuel pump, and if it lights up, you know you have good electrical contact at ground, but no pressure. They pulled the pump. Sure enough, it was mechanically failed. Put voltage to it, didn't turn. Put the fuel pump in it, crank no start. Still wouldn't start. I went over and took a look at it. I sprayed some ether down it. It fired up, so I knew I had most likely had good spark. And although some cars ether is enough, the pressure can cause it to ignite sometimes. But I'm pretty sure it had spark, and so I checked for fuel pressure, and we have fuel pressure. And so I checked for injector pulse. No injector pulse. So I go to the computer and I scan it for codes on global OBD2. Comes back and tells me there's no codes. I'm like, So just to check, I went ahead and went into OEM Enhanced and did a scan all modules. Came back with 42 codes in the ECM. I go through those codes. Mass airflow, voltage high. Mass airflow, voltage low. It had voltage high and low codes for like every freaking sensor under the hood. I'm checking my voltage, my reference voltages, unplugging sensors, making sure nothing's shorted. Everything looks fine. And I'm like, this has got to be a computer problem. So I checked the powers and grounds of the computers, and I'm like, I'm just going to call it. It needs a computer. Well, this is at a junkyard, so that's no problem. They go grab a computer out of another one. I come over last night. I program the computer. Still crank no start. I go ahead and load all the updates on the body control module and the theft deterrent as well. I redo it all. Paying for the VIN number, reload them all. It's only got 3 modules. It's 2001. Still crank no start. Go into my tech to win because I didn't have my scan tool with me, so I went in my tech to win. I look, and the thing has no engine speed. And so typically the way GMs work is they fire the injectors off of the camshaft position sensor, and they fire the coils off the crankshaft position sensor, and they usually will time out, and so basically you'll have an extended start. If one of those two sensors go bad, you'll have an extended start, but it'll still start. So I'm like, The only code in the computer now is crankshaft position relearn, which is normal when you reprogram a computer. And so I told him, you got another crankshaft position sensor in that engine over there on the shelf. Pull it tomorrow, pull the starter, put a new crank position sensor in it. He does that. Still, crank no start, but now he has injector pulse. Well, we found out that the socket was loose for the fuel pump as well. And I think that's just from people probing in there, trying to make it work. So he turns the tab a little on the relay, sticks it down in there. It starts up. Still running like crap. Well, then it dawns on him that he doesn't have the air tube hooked up, so it's not reading the mass airflow sensor. So he hooks everything back up. It's running great. Now it has a camshaft position sensor code. So they've done enough. They got it running. They're sending it and letting him come back for the rest of the stuff if he wants to. But of course, it won't do the crankshaft position relearn without the camshaft position sensor working, and it has a code for that. So they're sending it. They're already deep enough into this. But yeah, that's just wild. It had a bad fuel pump, a bad computer. It had a bad crankshaft position sensor, and it's got a bad camshaft position sensor. That's a lot of problems. That's a lot of things to go wrong all at once. sometimes you just can't wrap your head around how that stuff happens. And, you know, if any shop told a customer of mine, like, you got a bad computer, bad crankshaft position sensor, a bad fuel pump, and it was running the day before it died, I would say they're full of crap. But I verified each of those things were actually wrong with it. So that's crazy. Anyway, I'll talk to y'all later. It's this time, Frugal Prepper.